most of the time they just sell the cars, by the way. They're not like giving those cars to the kids or like using them to bring organs between hospitals.
I hated those people.
They're just selling those cars too.
I was always looking for cheap cars to blow up, and it was like, don't donate your car to kids. Fucking kids
don't need
dude.
Donate your
dangerous
cars
concept.
for Kyle.
Kids can't drive.
No, they
do 866 cars for Kyle, and then you can just blow shit up.
Cars for Kyle. Just your cars.
I bought one guy's car. I think he had a Mercedes for $900, and he considered it to be a fixer-upper, and I considered it to be a blower-upper. And when he realized that, he wasn't sure if he wanted me to have it anymore, so I had to lie to him and be like, Daddy would like this car, don't you think, Scott? Yeah, he always wanted a green one. And I'm like, yeah, you know what? I'm not going to do that other thing I clearly came here to do.
Dude, I'm going to buy
load it up. I'm going to give it to Dad. And then we took and blew it the fuck up.
We used to tell people what we're going to do with the cars. And then we realized just that then they would because they'd be like, I taught my son to drive stick in this, and I gave birth to my daughter in the back seat, and I took it to the prom. And you're like, this car's life ends tomorrow. You're like, I am the end of the line for this particular vehicle. And we stopped telling them that, but we laugh in our own heads.
Even fruit. I remember buying a bunch of fruit from this black lady. And I got to keep in mind, it's a shopping cart full of fruit. And part of the video was that I've got exotic fruit. So there's like star fruit in there, a bunch of cantaloupes. Like I got like 5 of everything that a nice grocery store has.
At the Cab Farmers Market.
Sure. And she's just like, she's thumping my melons, talking about how good a job I did getting the ripe ones. Oh, good cantaloupe when you sees one, baby. She's like, double bag that sugar, and just going on about how good my fruit is. And finally, I'm annoyed with her. She's like, what are you doing? I'm like, we're gonna shoot all of this with an HK machine gun, and then we're gonna let it rot on the ground while we drink beer after.
We're gonna have an ant problem
or something like that. And she's just like,
I mean,
she had a goddamn
imagine you spent like months watering that fruit every day.
That's why you don't have water. You're taking showers with buckets around your feet, so I can.
Well, it's mostly because he lives in the desert and you live in a super wet area.
Part of the problem.
Yeah. You're the Sam Kinison bit. We'll take you to where the food is. You live in the fucking desert.
There's no food there. Dude,
I don't know why that. Isn't it that corporations sold all the goddamn groundwater to some fucking Germans or some shit, or the Chinese own it all or something?
So, dude, California fucked up so bad. They sold the rights to the aquifers. The underground aquifers in like the 90s. They sold them to a few people, but one of whom were the Resnicks, who are the worst people on earth. The Resnicks are the Wonderful company, like Palm Wonderful and all the nuts and shit. And they own an enormous amount of the entire state's water rights. And what do they do with that? They grow pistachios and almonds, the most water-intensive crops on the fucking planet, and they export them out of the state and make billions of dollars while treating their workers like shit.
See, this is when you need a little big government.
I hear it. The thing is,
down.
I like pistachios, so fuck.
I like pistachios. So
I like almond milk.
Do you know how the pistachios relate to the Iran fucking embargo? So the best pistachios in the world are from Iran. And in the 80s, these people, the Resnicks, were in deep with the Reagan administration and figured out that if we could stop the importing of Iranian pistachios, that they would have an opening in the marketplace, especially if they had all the free fucking water in the world. And so now we have pistachios.
Reagan, the guy who was the governor of California?
Oh, yes. Real fucking socialist, that one.
I'm starting to connect some dots here.
Yeah.
Which major city is it that sold all of their parking meter rights for
Chicago?
Chicago sold their parking meter rights to, I think, China And
it was one of the biggest fuck ups of all time.
China bought the parking right meters to all of Chicago for Zach will find the real numbers.
It was $1 billion, or it was like a 1 billion or 1.5 billion for 75 years of parking meter revenue.
It paid itself off during that administration. Now there's new administrations.
Like 3 years.
It's nothing but profit now.
Okay, so clearly there was a Chinese spy in charge.
Chicago fucked up so bad, and they 1.15 billion. There's a book I just read, and it's a great book, and it's called Paved Paradise: How Parking Explains the World. I interviewed the author on my podcast, and it's really interesting, and that deal is one of the biggest governmental fuck ups of all time.
I have a parking meter story. Oh, you were more.
Sure. No. Go ahead.
So when I grew up in Ocean City, New Jersey, there's whatever government department of parking meters. And the guy that ran it, working for the government, was a thief and stole the money. Year after year after year, Ocean City, New Jersey lost money on parking meters, right? All they do is collect money and they can't turn a profit. The guy lived in a beautiful oceanfront home and I think bought with quarters until they eventually caught him and put him in jail.
What a king. That's I like that. That's hilarious.
Yeah. The parking meter. I mean, because basically the city of Chicago, they didn't want to raise, they were broke. And they didn't want to raise the rate at the meters. It was like 5 cents an hour or whatever, and they didn't want to make it 50 cents an hour. And they thought the people would be outraged, so they sold the rights to the parking meters to someone else. Who? What the fuck did this private company then do? But immediately raise the fucking rates.
You think that Chinese company cares if people are mad about parking?
Yeah. And like the Saudi Wealth Fund is now one of the owners, and like Morgan Stanley is involved. And I mean, it's just insane. And now, like, if the city, if someone wants to get a permit, to have a parade or like when they wanted to do outdoor dining, like in the parking spaces during COVID, they had to pay this fucking company. They couldn't just be like, okay, take the parking space to use it for an outdoor dining area. It was like they had to pay.
Are there no rules at all about like what cities and like what they can sell to China? Like they can just decide. Like
there was, I don't think selling it to China. I don't think that's entirely accurate.
Chinese
they
business.
Sold it to an investment bank that one of their investors was like the Chinese government. It's not like they sold it directly to the Chinese government. That's not accurate. But it did end up with some form of foreign control over those parking meters. There's some Saudi shit in there. There's some Chinese shit in there. It's de facto
controlled by them, but like not like.
Next time you hear your government,
but it was like an investment
some part of itself in the name of privatization. This is what that is, right? This is where it was, but like they were selling their sewer system. They're like, look, we're the government. We're kind of tired of running the plumbing around here. Let's just sell our sewer system. You think that private investor was not going to like jack up the prices and just maximize their profits and fucking? It's a utility. Like you have to have it. So
it's it's literally in the name. The utility is like it's a public service. It does not need to.
You'd want to regulate the shit out of it to make sure they don't fuck you in the ass as soon as you turn it over to them, right? You want a contract in place. You wouldn't just say, "Yeah, you handle the park from now on. You got it, right?" Oh, yes, we got it. You need any help, guidance, laws, rules, anything? Just some advice, maybe? Nah, we got this planned out. Like, no, there should have been a real firm structure for this kind of parking can never be more than this per hour. There should be a goddamn formula explaining. When I play video games, the math is so complicated that a human can't do it. But somehow, like when we do a big deal where we sell the parking for our city, Chicago's a big city for anybody who's never.
Yeah, it was really, really.
Wait, what now?
It was really.
How many parking meters is that?
Oh, hundreds.
I think it was thousands. I think it was thousands. I think it was between like between 3,000 and 5,000. I think it was a bunch.
I would have guessed higher, but okay, I don't know.
Yeah, Chicago's the third biggest city in the country, right?
Of them.
Is it?
It was a whole bunch, and it was the ones in the like the city like limits, like it, you know, it was only the one. Yeah, right. Whatever. Anyway, there's a bunch of other really interesting shit in that book, you know, about how parking requirements dictate how almost every building you can imagine, you know, looks and operates and just stuff like that.
It's one of those things I never would have considered
familiar?
at all, but now it's like it makes sense.
Yeah, yeah.
You familiar with that subreddit? Fuck cars. It's just.
I am familiar.
I thought you might be. They're like the opposite of you. It's just
no. I do like to draw a line between car enthusiasm and car dependency. Like I love cars, industry. The exciting cars, you know. But I think that we as a country, as a state, the state I live in, as a city, Los Angeles, subsidize heavily car people at the expense of non-car people, and I think that needs to stop. And I think that like we need to have, not everybody wants to be in their fucking car all the time, and you know, there's people who can't afford cars or don't like cars, don't want cars, and like we could do a lot by having a solid public transit system so that not everybody had to be in their car all the time, and we could develop infrastructure that didn't revolve around cars, that has been done very successfully in other places. And so I like those fuck cars subreddit and the all of those people. I engage with them. And I think a lot of what they're saying is right. And I encourage them to not demonize car enthusiasts as opposed to, because a lot of
that's
us
what they're doing
feel that way too.